You know the drill. The dragon is slain, the curse is lifted, the music swells, and then the narrator drops the three most dangerous words in the language. Happily, ever, after.
Hmm.
It's the cultural default setting, right? We're trained from childhood to believe that marriage is the finish line. You find your person, the credits roll, and then it's just static bliss until you die.
It's a lovely image, isn't it?
Yeah.
But, if you've ever actually been in a long-term relationship or honestly just watched a couple try to build IKEA furniture,
Oh, that's the real test.
that's the real test. You know that when the credits roll, the real work is uh, actually just beginning. And that static bliss idea, it's not just a lie, it's a trap.
A trap is putting it lightly. Today we're digging into a piece of source material that basically takes a sledgehammer to that whole Disney ending. We're doing a deep dive into a text called Beyond Happily Ever After, the Vanaprastha Transcendence.
Mm-hmm.
And it proposes a completely different trajectory for relationships, one that's, well, a lot more demanding, but maybe much more rewarding.
It really is. The text argues that the happy ending narrative is a serious limitation. It suggests that by aiming for this, steady state of romantic happiness, we miss the point of human existence.
The whole point.
The whole point. Instead, it proposes the dharmic view, which is perpetual growth toward liberation. So it's not about arriving somewhere. It's about this continuous evolution through life stages.
Right. So the mission for this deep dive is to deconstruct that romantic illusion, this idea of marriage as a final destination. We're going to walk through the concept of before ashramas, or stages of life, and see how a relationship is supposed to evolve from, a household duty into a true spiritual partnership.
Yeah.
And I want to be clear right off the bat, this isn't just abstract philosophy. This whole framework is deeply connected to the Vivaha Sanskara Kit from Leela Gurukulam, which uses these ideas to treat marriage as a genuine rite of passage.
And that's a vital distinction. A social contract is about rights and property. A rite of passage, on the other hand, is about transforming the soul. And the text starts by identifying the enemy of that transformation, the kama-centric ideal.
Okay, let's pause right there because definitions matter. Kama. That usually translates to desire or pleasure, right? In the West, we often think of it as, purely physical.
We do, and you're right to flag that. In this context, the kama-centric ideal isn't just about physical intimacy. It's the whole mindset that external conditions, your partner, your house, your status, are responsible for your internal state.
Right. It's the belief that if you just arrange the furniture of your life correctly, you'll achieve this, continuous, effortless satisfaction.
Exactly. The you complete me plot of every rom-com.
Yes. The idea that I'm a puzzle with missing piece, and you are that piece.
And the text argues that this is just fundamentally incompatible with the truth. If you go into marriage expecting another flawed human being to be the source of your happily ever after, you are setting up a structural failure from the start.
Because they can't do it.
Well, because it's not their job. The source relies on a core spiritual axiom that anandit or changed. It comes only from the Atman, the self.
It's an inside job.
It's an inside job. No other person can sustain the burden of being your God, your therapist, your financial planner, and your source of endless joy. It's impossible.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate here for a second. That sounds a little bleak, doesn't it? If I can't rely on my partner to make me happy, what's the point? Why get married at all if we're just two solitary islands floating next to each other?
And that is the crucial friction point. The text isn't saying you shouldn't enjoy your partner or love them. It's saying you shouldn't depend on them for your core existential validity. Once you remove that pressure for them to fix you, the relationship changes. It stops being a vending machine for happiness and starts being something else entirely.
And this is where the source pivot is so interesting. If marriage isn't a vending machine, what is it? And the text introduces the concept of Gruhastashrama.
Gruhastashrama, the householder phase, yes.
But it describes it in a way I have never seen before. It calls it a compulsory transformative phase. It compares marriage not to a vacation home, but to a university.
A school for the soul.
I really want to drill down on this because I think most of us see marriage as a refuge from the world. You go out, you fight the dragons, you come home to your safe harbor. But this text is saying, no, the home is the dojo. It's where the training happens.
Think about the structure of the ashramas. You start in brahmacharya, the student phase. You're learning the theory. Then you enter gruhastashrama, the householder phase. This is the practical lab.
The lab.
You're taking two distinct egos, two sets of desires, two completely different histories, and forcing them to coexist in a confined space for decades. It is literally designed to create friction.
But we see friction as a sign that something's wrong. We fight, so we think, oh, we're not compatible.
But in this educational model, the friction is the curriculum. The source actually lists the subjects taught in this school, and they are rigorous. The first one was tapasya.
Tapasya. We usually hear that in the context of, monks sitting on mountains. Discipline, austerity. How does that apply to a suburban marriage?
Well, think about the heat that's generated when your will clashes with your partner's will. You want to spend money on a vacation, they want to save for a new roof.
Right. You want the windows open, they want them closed.
Exactly. That heat, that is tapasya. It's the discipline of not getting your way. It is the burning away of selfishness.
So the argument itself is the spiritual practice.
If you approach it correctly, yes, it polishes the stone. Then you have the next subject, titiksha.
Which is patience, right?
Patience is a bit of a soft translation. Titiksha is closer to forbearance or endurance. It's the ability to withstand difficult situations, illness, financial stress, your partner's annoying habits, without mental agitation or complaint.
Without complaint. Okay, now I know this is an advanced degree. It's easy to endorse something while complaining about it the whole time. I'm doing the dishes again, look at me suffering.
That is not titiksha. That's just martyrdom. Titiksha is doing the duty because it's the duty without that internal narrative of victimhood. And that leads directly to the next subject.
Selfless service.
Selfless service. Doing things for the other person, not because it's a transaction, I did this, so you owe me that, but purely to serve, which is the antidote to the biggest subject in the whole curriculum,
Which is?
the sacrifice of ahamkara.
The ego.
The ego.
Yeah.
The belief that I am the center of the universe. Marriage is a relentless, day in, day out assault on the ego. You cannot hold on to a massive sense of self-importance and have a functioning marriage. The I has to make room for the we.
So every compromise, every act of service, every moment of that titiksha is chipping away at the ego.
Constantly. The source also lists artha, which means wealth or resources, as a subject. And I think this is where a lot of people get tripped up. We think money is unspiritual. But the text frames managing resources as a core part of the curriculum. It's about stewardship. It's not just balancing the checkbook. It's navigating the values behind the money. It's a massive test of character.
And the final one is saharma.
Mastery of shared life. Walking the path of duty together. It's the comprehensive final exam where you integrate all those other skills, discipline, patience, service, ego management, into one cohesive life.
So let's just look at the timeline here. You enter this school, you spend 20, 30 years grinding through this curriculum. You raise kids, you pay the mortgage, you learn to crush your ego. But here's the radical part. The source says the goal of the school is to pass out.
Now, for our global listeners, we should probably clarify the language there. In the source materials context, which is Indian English, pass out means to graduate.
Yes, vital distinction. It doesn't mean fainting.
No, not fainting from exhaustion, though maybe that happens too. The point is to graduate. The text is very firm on this. Like any educational institution, the goal is for its learners to graduate and not get stuck in it forever.
And that is such a heavy concept for us. We tend to cling to the householder phase. We want to be the active parents or the power couple forever. We define ourselves by our careers and our kids.
And that's where the suffering comes from. The text argues that grihastha is a phase with a specific purpose. Once that purpose is fulfilled, children are grown, debts are paid, social duties are met, you are supposed to move on. If you stay, you stagnate.
The source uses this really, this incredible analogy that I want to unpack, the ripe fruit.
It's a beautiful biological metaphor. Imagine a fruit on a tree. That fruit represents the householder. The branch represents the world, the job, the social network, the daily grind.
Yeah, okay.
When the fruit is green and unripe, it clings to that branch with incredible strength. You can't pull it off without damaging the whole tree.
Because it still needs nutrition. It's still growing.
Correct. But when the fruit is fully ripe, a chemical change happens. An abscission layer forms, and the fruit, it just detaches effortlessly. It falls.
And the question is, why does it fall? It's not because it gave up. It's because it has a new purpose.
Exactly. If the fruit hangs on the branch forever, it just rots. It dries out. It never releases the seeds inside. It serves no further purpose. The source argues we must detach from the intense duties of the householder stage so that we can spread our wisdom.
Let's apply this to the real world, because I see this rotting fruit thing all the time. This is the helicopter parent who's still trying to manage their 30-year-old's life.
Or the CEO who has plenty of money but refuses to retire because they don't know who they are without that title.
That's the unripe attachment. They're clinging to the branch because they haven't developed an identity outside of that role. They haven't graduated. The transition to the next phase, Vanaprastha, requires a conscious detachment.
Vanaprastha, the forest dweller stage. Now, obviously, most of us aren't going to move into a literal forest.
No, though sometimes that sounds appealing.
Doesn't it? In a modern context, Vanaprastha is a psychological and spiritual shift. It's retirement from the doing mode into the being mode.
The text says something here that sounds, frankly, terrifying for a married couple. It says the bond must shed its primary emotional and transactional kama dependence.
This is the hardest part. Comma dependence is that neediness we talked about earlier. In the householder phase, the relationship is often very transactional. I earn the money, you manage the house. Or we are co-managers of these children. It's functional.
So shedding that means what? We just stop needing each other. You stop using each other to prop up your ego or your lifestyle. The text calls for emotional detachment. But, and this is critical, detachment in this philosophy does not mean indifference. It doesn't mean you stop loving them.
Great.
It just means the nature of the love changes.
The source introduces the term Sakya here.
Yes. The relationship transforms into Sakya, which is the highest form of spiritual friendship.
I feel like we need to paint a picture of this because friendship sounds like a downgrade from romance to a lot of people. Oh, we're just friends now. But the text treats this as a huge upgrade. It is a massive upgrade. Think about the face-to-face dynamic of romance. You're looking at each other, obsessed with each other, negotiating with each other. It's intense, but it's closed off. Sakya is a side-by-side dynamic.
Side by side.
You're no longer looking at each other. You're both looking in the same direction, towards the truth, towards the divine. You're two travelers walking the same path. You don't need the other person to carry you because you learned to walk on your own during the school phase, but you were walking together.
That's a powerful reframing. You're not roommates. You are spiritual allies.
Precisely. You share a history. You have, and I quote, disciplined each other for decades. You know every scar and every strength. And now you use that shared understanding to help each other achieve the ultimate goal, liberation.
So what does a Tuesday look like in the Vanaprastha stage? If we're not running the rat race, what are we doing?
The source suggests a new routine. It's dedicated to sadhana and svadhyaya.
Let's break those down.
Sadhana is spiritual practice. That could be meditation, chanting, or simply just deep mindful living. And svadhyaya is self-study reading scripture, contemplating the nature of reality.
So instead of spending the evening talking about the electric bill or the neighbor's renovation, you might spend it discussing a passage from a book or just sitting in shared silence.
Yes, the conversation shifts from the mundane to the transcendent. And the beautiful byproduct of this internal work is that the couple becomes, as the source puts it, revered sources of wisdom for the community.
This is the elder concept.
Real elders.
Yeah.
Not just old people. There is a difference. An old person is just someone who has survived a long time. An elder is someone who has metabolized their life experience into wisdom.
Right.
Because they've detached from the branch, from the need for status and accumulation, they have a clear perspective. They can guide the younger generation, the ones still in the heat of the Grihastha school, without getting entangled in their drama.
It's the difference between the player on the field and the coach on the sideline. You have to get off the field to see the whole game.
That's a great way to put it. Vanaprastha is moving to the sideline. You're still invested in the game, but your role is no longer to score points. It's to ensure the game is played well by the next generation.
This whole philosophy just flips the modern script. Our script says you peak at 30, and then it's a slow decline into irrelevance. The script says the chaos of your 30s and 40s is just the training ground. The real peak, the spiritual peak, happens later.
It creates a sense of anticipation for aging. Instead of fearing the empty nest or retirement, you see it as the time you've been training for. You finally get to do the real work.
So, to bring this all together, we started with the illusion of the static, happily ever after.
And we replaced it with the dynamic reality of the school of marriage, where friction and duty are actually the teachers.
We learned that we have to graduate to become the ripe fruit and let go of the branch.
And finally, we saw that the destination isn't loneliness, but Sakya, this profound, liberating friendship where two souls walk each other home.
For those of you listening who feel like this is a lot to take in, I mean it is, it's a complete paradigm shift. But if you're interested in the practical tools for this, That's exactly what the Vivaha Sanskara Kit from Leela Gurukulam is designed for. It takes these huge concepts and turns them into a workable framework for your life.
It bridges that gap between the philosophy and the daily reality.
I want to leave everyone with a question today that really stuck with me when we were reading about the whole graduation concept. It's a bit of a mirror test.
Let's hear it.
If marriage is a school designed to reduce your ego, teach you service, and prepare you for wisdom, ask yourself this. Are you currently being a good student, or are you just trying to skip class?
Oof. At its own. Are you doing the work of the lesson, or are you just waiting for the recess bell so you can check your phone?
Exactly. Are you resenting the friction, or are you letting it polish you? That's the question.
Indeed.
Thank you so much for diving deep with us today.
It was a pleasure.
We'll catch you on the next one. Stay curious.